very standard drum progression. All drummers.
It's not even drums.
Wait, really quick. Just want to comment. So that's a really interesting point you're bringing up, because we don't copyright beats, but yet we do copyright other things, and it makes sense to me intuitively why we wouldn't, because how many ways?
I'm aware that what you're hearing is not the drum. You're hearing hand clapping and feet stomp.
Rhythm. What I meant was rhythm.
Yeah, but it is a drum rhythm that all drummers play in hundreds of songs.
Well, more importantly, Steve, it is the basis of every protest chant. It's always 1, 2, 3, absent 4, 1, 2, 3, absent 4.
Also,
protest chant.
Also in electronic music, and I would say hip hop to some degree, or this is sort of the basis of how people sort of form genres, and they form you can call them kind of tribes around certain genres of music, and then you find people coalescing with the way they dress and with the ways they think and identity. And so I think what's really interesting is the way music and the psyche interface in this way, that we find something that we share with someone else that I really love. For example, a breakbeat. And when I go out and I listen to breakbeat music, people are dancing in a certain way. But if I go out and I'm listening to jungle, being kind of a sped up, and you can call it kind of just like a fucked up version of a breakbeat. People have their own ways of dressing and dancing, and if you listen to house music, that's just straight up 4/4. Typically, you can throw in a breakbeat, and then we call it break house, and then that has its own genre of people and the way they think and act towards each other. And that, to me, is a really interesting thing, how core music and rhythm is really to our identities and the way we coalesce with one another.
Another important one is if you work that into your melody, and it's like a fucking thing, I'll get right to the primal fear, the limbic region.
By the way, I didn't think about electric for the washing machines like strikers that enough of your thoughts also putting it out there for the machines.
Just trying to get like no Charles Eva with music, like to break it down. It's depressing.
What do you find the most depressing about the bone? How would you define the bone?
It was going to really happen here, and what's already happening, you have like algorithms that can scour the internet, analyze every song that it can find, and then trace any similarities. And then lawyers will use this software, these algorithms, this artificial intelligence. They go like, hey, you know what? Like the artist, like you have a case. It's not even like, oh, this song sounds like another one. It's just like, it's gonna happen. It hasn't already. Like how many times these people, like the Marvin Gaye family or whatever, I think it was really them that were like, that the lawyer probably approached them. You stand to make some money here.
Wouldn't they be making the money on the settlement because someone doesn't want to have to pay a lawyer to defend that there's an intent that was not to steal? Or is this, besides one, because it seems to me the same thing that they were doing with the whole, what is it, the MCA, where they were just suing everybody, and in fact they were, to some degree kind of entrapping people by, just having availability of certain media on BitTorrent, etc. And then the second someone had an IP address that could be traced back to that particular song, they were sent a letter, they could be sued, and then they were offered from an attorney, the privilege of being able to settle for a few $1,000s. I mean, kind of what I'm seeing is someone has a real sketchy kind of business model in terms of, their law practice. But I can see how this opens that up, the way technology is right now.
Oh, by the way, I didn't think about electric for the washing machine staggers that went with your thoughts. Yes, opening an outlet for the machines.
Seriously, listen to every blues song. It's a Blind Lemon Jefferson, whatever the fuck, Blind Blake, all the Blind, musicians in the 30s. Like I wouldn't, they all use the same chord progressions. It's like the same shit, you know, but they're like so progressive and unique. And they don't have this like unique way of playing guitar. It's nuts. You guys ever heard Blind Blake? He plays like ragtime piano on a guitar. He does this shit with his thumb. It's crazy. I'm like, I will never be able to play that shit. And this guy lived like 40,000.
So to your point, using another kind of analogy that happened was early hip hop sampling, which was to some degree, you could say an outright theft, but you know, or those of us who were into it and have been into music, even electronic music early on, does a lot of sampling and kind of transforming what used to be one thing into another thing. I realize that this is where there's a bit of a generational divide on in terms of what some people would consider to be theft, because some people simply see that as way too outright of just taking a thing and reusing it. But also DJs who produce music, who also mix music, who then sell the mixes, now have to obviously purchase licenses for all that. But a lot of the music that I used to love when I was a kid, now if I go back and I try to find it, I can't find it because slowly those songs have been removed from the available catalogs because of the unlicensed samples. And so to me, I think I think that's where I sort of become the hypocrite in the conversation, because I can totally sympathize with getting a hall pass with that early sort of era where we didn't really have laws clearly defined, or they weren't being consistently practiced or something. There's something about it, maybe just because those are kind of what I grew up on. I just sympathize with, you should have just left it there.
That's why Tribe Called Quest said forever clearing samples from the next LP.
Yep. That's why their sound changed so much.
Like, what if I take one of these samples I like blatantly just yank from a song, I flip it backwards? Most people aren't going to recognize it. Is that stealing? Changed it with very little effort. All I did was just like in Pro Tools, just reverse audio file. Now is that stealing?
Are we having a legal conversation or a philosophical conversation, or just sort of
more
two friends?
Right, not legal, but like more just lazy.
The answer is absolutely yes.
What if I speed it up now? So I'm flipping it backwards and speeding it up.
It doesn't matter what if, ands, or could be's, because not adding or deleting anything from it. You're just playing it backwards and or speeding it up or slowing it down. That absolutely is theft.
But I read a completely different song, and that's just like an element of this.
You didn't say that. You said, what if I just...
Hey, Uncle Steve, the green bean asshole. I mean, why create a room to just scream at people? You didn't say that. This is what it says. It's like, fuck, man. People do not know how to have conversations. Oh, by the way, I didn't think about electric. I'll take some photos. I might be able to. I'll send you some photos of the closet. Might be able to run an extension cord instead of outlet install. Take some So, Drudge Report is officially a CIA app or controlled by a nefarious organization or individuals or group of individuals that bought it out. It's said that they have something on Matt Drudge. It's possible that they blackmailed him, but they're not completely pernicious in their postings. They're just somewhat pernicious. Everything is essentially anti-Trump and everything is pro-Kamala. So it's like Drudge Report is essentially the Kamala Harris branding portal for all the other mainstream media now. It's crazy, but that's what's happened. So we should create a YouTube video about Matt Drudge and then who the organization is that owns Drudge Report. I've already investigated the advertising company behind Drudge Report, and there's nothing really salacious or groundbreaking about that, but we're definitely working with the Kamala Harris campaign, and but it's almost as if Drudge is selling links and selling publicity services. I'm almost sure that they're doing additional advertising with some of their clients, aka their political customers, which is definitely co-opted media. As Robert F. Kennedy puts it, it's controlled media. So, anyways, Uncle Steve is the green bean asshole.
Doctorate, when they're in a punk band, if they use someone else's bars.
What if you just used a bunch of clips of Benjamin and did set it to music and did like a Benjamin supercut? Like
As a form of torture, or what is it?
It's Beethoven, he did nothing wrong. He did not, man, he did not. Just while you're in the middle of cleaning it up, explain to them the particles infinitely separated and cause each other's outputs to change.
are you gonna flip that and follow it by like 20 minutes of house music with Benjamin going, these scientists, like
Stanford fraud, Stanford, Stanford.
Mark Tessier Levine. Mark Tessier Levine is a nice ring. I'm pretty sure you did this Rich Bro. Or that's a great idea, by the way. Did you read the article today, Cora? The 5 minutes of fraud was pretty good. There's 800,000 deaths. 5 minutes of what? What'd you say?
is it linked in the chat?
Link it in the chat. Oi. Let's break this. Bitches and snitches. Snitches get stitches. Made that up.
I mean, like maybe everybody should consider their clubhouse conversation and try to artfully, present themselves in a way that would make a good supercut.
It's your boys. Seriously. fuck that. It wasn't Karen Carpenter. It was Leonard Cohen, and she covered it. Hallelujah song. That's the one where she's like describing. The remote chord things. I always like figured bass more. I don't know. They don't teach that shit. I don't really think anymore. There's a book by fucking what's his face? Johann Sebastian Bach. One of his kids wrote a good. This is a treatise on keyboard playing, right? But back then it was like music theory, but they didn't have music very much. It was all wrapped up in that shit. It's really interesting. Like 6/4s and 6/3s and.
Hey Cora, so your idea for Benjamin, it triggered a memory of this album that Terrence McKenna was on by this group called Space Time Continuum in the early 90s. That was basically that.
I know exactly what
Yes.
you're talking about.
Yes, it was pretty big among like certain kind of clusters back then, and there were a few people that did that. The other guy who wrote it, this is terrible that I can't think of his name because he's famous. He's an author, heroin addict, who had some story about like a big ass bug. It was kind of some. Yeah, he had an album too that was like that. That was set with some kind of electronic-y type music that was all like that. So
He also was on Tom Waits' album. His Black Riders. He's on that album too.
So it's a proven concept.
The Lee Moore song.
Yeah. So it's a proven concept. I mean, this might actually be a viable artistic endeavor if we just all steal Benjamin's voice when he's on. We all record him separately. Then we get together without him in the room, and we make the album. We make some money on it, and we have.
That would be great. So that would be great.
What?
My favorite one was what?
Can you imagine a song about Stanford committing fraud with Marcus here Levine and his use of Photoshop to create medical results were like a meme that every child had to learn how to dance.
Yeah, I think my favorite Rimbaud book was.
Like Stanford's reputation would be in the tank like in 40s. Look, I'll pay the production costs what it costs. Don knows how to run a studio. He can play the chords and know what the chords are. They're just going to be dun 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 dun. And
It's gonna be like 12-bar blues.
Pro can do the rap music with GPT. I think it'd be no problem. We should be able to have this done by the end of the show.
John can beatbox. It's gonna beatbox.
Oh, I'll show my dentist. Dentist knows
I think Carranza could do the voiceover. He seems pretty flexible with his voices.
So what's the word for when I create a sufficiently identical enough agent that I can have that agent come on as Benjamin and I can just flood rooms with Benjamins, like a Benjamin attack, if the topic is something I'm...
What's that called?
Yeah, where you steal someone's identity.
It's a Benjamin Cascade. Is what it is.
By like,
If you don't like the topic,
It's like sell at hip-hop
you
knows
pull a
it.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
And sometimes a Benjamin is you really dig deep into the topic, like if people are getting really personal, you offer your own personal experience, like washing your clothes.
the best Benjamin though is an anti-Benjamin. So that you just solved the riddle here. If you go into a topic I don't like so much, I'm going to introduce the anti-Benjamin into the room to give you what you're dishing out.
Oh wow, like an entanglement problem, like wind particles.
It's like program cell death, which is like a chemical cascade of
It's like a
Benjamins.
momentum zero system where the
Yeah.
Benjamin and the anti-Benjamin like add up to zero.
Then the enzyme Benjamin, Gelafettides recruits for to break down mellow. Yeah, it's like a whole fucking chemical process.
And you can talk about the power of crystals and how pyramids like you live forever
Yeah.
and no
This is
erections.
this is
That would be
amazing.
so awesome. That would be so
Such
awesome.
I
amazing,
think my tactic
amazing
would
art
just be
and,
to read Emil Cira afterwards, like, endlessly until,
So,
That
since
thing where
we're,
we claim our identity.
Such amazing art, evidence of history.
That's one thing.
Okay, so since we're talking about composers and either copying or sound alike or ripping off or stealing, and it's time for the there's a very, very short clip of AR it's Paul McCartney who's on TV.
Such amazing evidence of history and time. Yeah, I just, yeah, I'm not a dealer. I suppose, yeah, I'm not a dealer, just investing in art and geographic studio, so I suppose, just amazement. But if it's local, I have to leave. To preserve and educate. Yeah, I'm not a dealer, just investing in art and geographic proximity. Also, I suppose, just amazement and curiosity. But if it's local, I have to believe there's some long-term value and importance to preserve and educate on. The food was terrible. I doubt they will survive. I showed a bunch of videos. The owners are struggling. The food was terrible. I doubt they will survive. I shot a bunch of videos. The owner was struggling. But it's a cool idea. Both probably. Both probably. What's your email? Oh, she was great. was a cop at 25th District for 20 years. I grew up playing golf on a crack.
Downstairs.
John, you're real low. No, okay. Well, kind of. Much better, whatever you did. Great improvement.
Oh, they did. Like Eric Copeland, yeah, they did Rodeo, like all sorts of shit in the last few years. ELP. That song is with the opening of the album Fragile. Roundabout. Free Day, Tuesdays. Blockish stuff. You know, you do that counterpoint movement on the acoustic guitar, you know, like when the high string goes up.
Hey, John, is it safe to say that since you were going to leave, but you're still here, this group of people is so interesting and valuable to you that you could not leave us? The FOMO was just too.
Exactly.
You wouldn't unleash a cascade of anti-Benjamins in this room if you found anything.
Why wouldn't you?
That doesn't drive trust. Almost by driving away means driving back to his former post. It's dangerously intentional.
Hey, I hate to interrupt you, Benjamin. I have a question for my Uncle Steve.
Oh yeah, no problem. Everybody interrupts.
Go ahead.
So, Uncle Steve, in terms of atheism and theism,
Yeah.
you know this spiritual movement from the 1960s, like Alan Watts, Ram Dass, Krishnamurti.
Come with interesting places where we have to get this literature.
Houston Smith.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was just wondering, do you think you're God in drag?
No. No. Thank you. Really simple question, simple answer. No. What is the musical instrument that the Hawaiians play all the time? I forget.
Ukulele.
Ukulele. In my opinion, the greatest ukulele song of all time. Which of course was not written on.
That was Brother Ends. Over the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
I played on the shore, so.
Called it.
Yeah. And by the way, one of the greatest ER shows, when Mark Green dies, they played this version somewhere over the rainbow during the show. And it was the only time on network TV where they said the word shit. Because Mark Green couldn't get out of bed, and then he fell out of bed, and he pounded his fist on the floor and said shit. Only time I think ever on network TV that they played shit, except maybe when they were playing the war movie Saving Private Ryan. I think they said fuck a couple of times, but they gave exclusions. But I'm like, network
Oh, I
TV
think I'm
between
out.
11
Okay, cool.
I
But
fucked
I'm
up the dulce.
very,
Yes.
very tapped at the moment.
I didn't say it was dominant. I just said it was around there.
Not
I've never
looking,
heard of it.
to a
I don't
nice
even know what the look
collection.
is. I just know that adults.
Just,
back in the
uh,
car.
Just like the one with
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know.
to remind myself of the situation.
It's crazy that back then they didn't have fucking formatting.
Okay, cool, but I'm very tapped at the moment with recent purchases, not looking at massive collection, just like a limited amount to remind myself of the
Well,
situation.
not his job, but then he was the first one like to
My eBay account
why
grew,
is it called the piano forte, right? That was called the piano, we called it soft. We only play soft, so that's what it's piano forte. Because harpsichords can only do one
It's
But
very
one
dangerous out
century
there.
doesn't develop a world.
Around 5,000 years ago, so 3,000.
The dulcimer was developed 5,000 years ago. Wow.
Yes, but it's not the dominant.
Rob,
say it
really,
Nobody said it was.
Talk about it for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, but me knowing that, like, okay, so I'm familiar with dulcimers because obviously, like, Mount Abacha, Mount dulcimers, blah, 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 but I also have a friend who is an expert in Estonian and Polish and Finnish folk music, and Bruce is very heavily into that too, so I think it's probably just a
They stole
spread.
a gang of 5 hooligans.
We don't think of the harpsichord as only having one roll and one pedal. We just see it as one.
Took a book bag.
It's a dead
Oh, my fanny pack. spared me my wallet and keys.
Usually I can at least get
Spent
12
a
rolls
day
of
in
mine or
there.
something.
And yes, it's very dangerous out there now. I was robbed and brutally beaten in Wicker Park 5 years ago. A gang of 5 hooligans on North Avenue took a book bag of antique yearbooks from me I bought on eBay at the Citadel Military College. My fanny pack spared me my wallet and keys for the day.
I didn't hear you say it. And you can't look on the internet, okay? I'll give you a hint. It's on the Albert Townsend site,
bust day.
which means it was written by Paul Simon. One of his
Yes,
By the way, for those of you who don't know, Bridge Over Troubled Water was written on guitar. And Art, I forgot one of the others was transformed into piano.
Okay, I didn't get killed. Some
The song
angel
is called
actually
Angel. It's
jumped above me.
A-N-J-I.
That's right.
Thank you. I like to be right.
Yeah. So if anyone, if you have not seen the Simon or Paul Simon documentary, 2-part documentary, that's on, I forget if it's HBO Max or something like that recently. It's really good. It's done, maybe more than 2 parts. Anyway, it's really good.
And in fact, didn't they just do a run of Simon and Garfunkel off Broadway?
Probably, because that was.
It was 2 actors and
Yeah,
singers
lucky
playing it, right?
I didn't get
Well,
killed.
I don't know about that
Some
part, but I
angel
do
actually
know
jumped
that they
above me,
really,
fighting
went
pose
through
and
their
I
entire
backed off. I
careers
was
and
covered in
even
blood.
back to the comeback that they did for a moment.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they had a comeback, so that was the new thing I learned from watching it.
Well, their first comeback was in 19.
Yeah, luckily I didn't get killed. Some angel actually jumped above me. I got in a fighting pose and then backed off. I was covered in blood.
No, I'm sorry, it was 76, okay? They stopped Bridge Over Troubled Water 69, took 6 years off. Then they came, it wasn't really a comeback, but Paul Simon came with My Little Town. And then Art did an album that had the My Little Town song
Spent a
on
day in
both
the
of their solo
lucky I
albums.
didn't get killed. Some
And-
angel actually
and
jumped
their
above
first
me and got in a
comeback was
fighting
around
pose and then backed off. I was covered in blood.
1983 concert set Art together for a while, took off, and they had kind of
One of the things also I thought was really interesting about the documentary set their perspective was that Art Garfunkel was really the one who had much more charisma and had the more beautiful voice, according to them, or according to others of the era, and that